Today's episode gets into something we all experience, whether we admit it or not. People judge you first by how you look, and then by what you say. First impressions matter, presence matters, but what matters even more is what you back it up with. Let's roll right in. All right, welcome to the Work Sucks, but I Like It podcast. Today we have Jay Setchell. He says, don't ask why, ask why not. Multiple deaths and near death experiences. He's a Marine Corps veteran, a serial entrepreneur, inventor, and author. He's had 73 surgeries, paralysis. He has his faith, though, his hope and prayer. He indicates that your purpose will change your life. Jay, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tony, good to be here, buddy.
Awesome, man. Define work for us today, Jay.
I I don't think I've ever worked. I really don't. I think that everything's always been, whether in the past or whether now, it's always. I'm I have a lot of gratitude, and I'm gracious just to be alive. And so, when work, so to use the term, comes along, it's never been work because it's always been about other people and helping other people and doing for others, I'm just glad to be alive. So if I got something to do and I make something to do, we're good to go.
I love that. So, Jay, 73 surgeries.
Yes, sir.
My Lord. Can you walk us through, I guess, why so many, I guess?
Well, I about got ground up like hamburger when I was 17 years old in a feeding auger accident and broke my right ankle and right leg and stuff. If it had gone another 4 or 5 seconds, it had just chewed me all. I turned into hamburger. But so I had a couple from that. But then in the Marine Corps, I died on the night of November 12th, 1969. In the Marine Corps, and I had a lot of surgeries there from 32 facial fractures, crushed skull, my left ankle was twisted backwards, busted ribs, punctured lungs, uh, you know, just about every part of me has had a surgery, is pinned, rotted, fused, replaced, or something except my right wrist and my left elbow. Everything. Every bone I've got that I know of. So, but and then the car accident and from the drunk driver in '73, and then my broken neck in '81 when I was 31 years old, and then as you get older, things compile. Like I've had 16 left knee surgeries, and it's been replaced 3 times on top of everything, and 15 back surgeries, and it just they just add up over the years. But it's. It, it's a lot harder getting through those and getting and staying alive than it is going to work or having a job or starting companies.
So, Jay, a lot of people today associate their identity with sort of how they look, their abilities. How have you shaped your identity going through these 73 surgeries and having this tremendous outlook that you have in life now?
Well, when you say how people look, I know this from years and years and years ago, is people judge you first by how you look or what they see, and then by what you say. And the first 10 words out of your mouth are more important than the next 100. So, that's a good thing. You can take it to the bank. But I don't. I've never judged myself on I've never judged myself against anybody or anything or what I look like or what I do. It's just what can I accomplish and can I get it done correctly, and I'm a doer. So when I say I'm going to do her, I do it. I do it now. I do it completely and I follow through. So I don't really the only thing that the surgeries and starting different companies and my 1 or 2 corporate stints, has it really did was I've moved a lot. I mean,
Mhm.
I've moved physically and started a lot of places differently. A lot of people really have a problem with moving, say, from, just throw out town, San Antonio to Denver to Spokane, Washington, back to, uh Raleigh, North Carolina. If they did that, they'd think the world was gonna end. I've moved between companies I've started and times I've moved, homes I've built and moved into is right around 40.
Wow.
and I'm
Okay.
76. So that's about every year and 3/4 I make a mo and sometimes there was 2 and 3 in a year.
Why do you
So,
think our culture is so attached to these sort of, I'll call it extrinsic things, right? We're attached to our house or our car. Like how have you kind of detached from all these things and sort of
um,
just yeah.
a good question. I I believe a lot of people today, in my opinion, I've got my oldest son's 56. I adopted him, but my oldest natural son is 50. My youngest one is 39. And I believe that people don't have things move fast in the last I call it the microwave society because everybody wants everything quick. I've called it the microwave society for 40 years because, just pop it in and pop it out. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But yet they want to attach something and say, that's mine. That's mine. I don't want to let that go. That's why some people are hoarders or they hang on to stuff they don't need. And I came from, a big working farm with a lot of cattle and a lot of activity, but I knew I saw the cycle of life because it was from up north, northern
Mhm.
Illinois, just south of Wisconsin. So the cycle of life gives you a whole different perspective, Tony, because you got your spring when everything's fresh and it's green and it's growing and you're planting. The summers when you're taking care of stuff and cultivating and spraying and whatnot. Fall, you harvest, you bring your crops in. Winter, you're down, you're either doing another job, you got another business, you're fixing equipment, you're getting ready, or we fed a lot of cattle, and you see those cattle grow and have to be shipped off to market, and you get another set in. So I was used to change all the time, and if you want to better yourself, you have to be able to elect to say, "Hey, I'm willing to take the move." I'm willing to take the challenge. Part of the reason I moved someone corporately was because they had terrible, terrible problems in other divisions, and I said, "Hey, I'll do it." And as soon as you turn the problem around, then you get called again and again and again because I'm that old Marine Corps sergeant, and I'm not afraid of it. What are they gonna do, kill me? I've already been dead 3 times, I mean, it's like, I should have been dead a few more, so I don't have any reason not to go, and then you've bettered the people that should be bettered or helped, and you're able to help your clients and the customers in your company, so I don't I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely. No, this is great, Jay. So one of the things I'd like for you to continue exploring here for us
Yes, sir.
is I love how you're going from the extrinsic sort of why are we attached to all these things. Walk us through now what you're kind of alluding to, this intrinsic desire. When you see a challenge, you want to take it on, right? You want to do these things. Walk us through how you've like sort of cultivated this intrinsic desire to do things.
I'm gonna presume it's because of the way I was raised and how I
Mm,
grew up, and by the time I was 5 years old and before that, I was collecting eggs from, 1,200, 1,500 chickens and sorting white eggs and brown eggs. That's pretty easy to figure out for that age, double yolkers are the great big ones, and you put them over here, and you come up with a case full of 30 dozen eggs, and then your dad would take them to the candling plant, and you're still sorting eggs from 1,200 chickens and he's got 3 or 4 cases of eggs he's taken off. Well, um, and feeding calves, I was feeding calves with a nipple bucket going down in the basement and beating up powdered milk with warm water and doing that when I was 5 years old, before I was 5 actually. And, you drag the bucket through the snow in the wintertime and through the tall grass in the summertime. But those calves become bigger and they move into the cattle out with the other cattle. And I think that it's just a constant, um, I it's something I've always seen is change because we all change. Right
mhm,
now, whatever age you are, in another 3 years, you're gonna be 20 years older because time
yeah.
goes faster as you get quicker or you get older, and and I know that's a kind of a joke. In 3 years, you'll be 20 years older, but it'll
I
seem
gotcha. I
like
like
it.
it.
It'll seem like it. And 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 I think that the more you try and do and experience, the more you become, um, the more experienced you become, the more problems you take over, the more resilient you become. You have a better, perspective of success. What is success? A lot of people ask that. Success has a million different terms. Everybody has a different definition of success. But I just believe that I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to let it happen. And I learned that by just taking small steps. And when I started my businesses, all my businesses, you take small steps. Dream big, take small steps. And the reason is because that way, if you falter or you need to change, you haven't gone and take this big leap
Mm.
or a big loan or whatever. You've you've done it a little bit at a time, but you can do it pretty rapidly. If you take little tiny steps, you can take a little tiny step every day. You don't have to do it once a week, but and so henceforth, I just like to see the change. I like to see it's a challenge. And I mean, like when you're a Marine when you're 17, just barely 18, and you're dead when you're 19 in the Marine Corps, and then you spend a year in the Naval Hospital, and it took you lay in bed for 8.5 months in traction and stuff, and all this other stuff. You've overcome a hell of a lot.
Mm.
By the time I was 20, 21, I mean, well, by the time I was 20, I mean, I'd been through the ringer.
You
And
aged 20 years in 3 years, no?
oh, yeah, I did. Probably more than
You
that,
did.
actually.
You
But,
probably did.
but
Yeah.
and keep it, it's kind of like keep a smile on your face because it makes people wonder what you've been up to.
Yep. Love
It's like
that.
if you walk somebody comes in, they go, I gotta, you wonder what have you been doing? You know, but you're going to get down, but just don't stay down. Get
Yep.
back up. You know, that's all.
So talk to us more, Jay, about the work ethic of today. And I guess I want to separate it for generations because I know you've got many years of experience on this lifetime. So walk us through the younger generation and the work ethic. What are you seeing? What are you seeing? I guess let's start with that.
I see some. I just had a discussion with somebody else on this the other day. Just another Marine by chance,
Love it.
and I and I said, it's the Marines of today. In my mind, some of them are very, very, very good, but they don't. You know, it, it's like the generations of today, as a rule, as a generality, can't take they gotta have their safe areas. They have to
Mm.
have their, "Oh, don't say that about me," or "Don't judge me like that," or whatever. Well, we got that all the time, and it never stopped us. It didn't bother us. It's like the Greatest Generation, the World War II guys. Do you think that bothered them? No, not a bit. But I see some young people that are out here that are sharp as hell. They're sharp. I mean, they're good. They're hard work and they get it. They got it. They're moving forward. And I think a lot of them, some of it they just have it, which
Mm.
I think that comes from, and I talk about that in my book a little bit. And the strength within you, it's always too soon to quit, because some people draw off their DNA, some draw off their religious upbringing, their family, teachers, there a million different things. Um, but I think that the more people I see that are younger that have really got something going in the direction, actually quite often talk to a mentor that is
Mm.
30 or 40 years older than they are. Somebody with experience, somebody that's been there, and there's an old saying, it's hard to fly with the eagles, soar with the eagles when you're hanging out with turkeys. You know, you've heard that, and so that's a saying too. That that, surround yourself with those that are on the same mission that you're on, but your mission will always be different or have a different tune to it than their mission. Even if they're on the same mission, they don't see your vision. Your vision, no matter what, Tony's vision of successful podcasting is different than Bob's vision of successful podcast. You may have the same goals, you may want to end up in the same place, so to speak, but your visions are different. So, but I think that mentorship. Now, I'm a partner, a very large partner, and very, very heavily invested in a company that's national. We just went international in 48 other countries,
Nice.
and that being said, I'm 31 years older than the next oldest guy in the company, and that's the CEO, and he's another Marine. But and so I end up being more the vision,
Mm.
or let's get back to basics. And I see a lot of young people today that a lot of people, period, up to 50, because you got to remember, 76, like the gentleman I said I listened to is 82.
Yeah.
When you talk to me, like, well, what about the generation behind you? Hell, they're 55. Are you kidding me? It's like, where are we at? So compared to you, they're older. So, but I think a lot of people don't get back to the basics, Tony, the basics of customer service, quality, delivery, show up, be on time, be ahead of time. All the little basics that got people to what they did for years back. That's just what it is. A
I
lot
love
of it's
that,
just,
Jay. I mean, I'm a millennial. I'm 38 years old, but I can definitely hear what you're saying with getting back to the basics. Show up on time, right? It's not a difficult
oh
thing.
yeah.
You say you're going to show up at 8, you show up at 8. Like, I don't know why it's
Well,
such a
you
problem
show up.
today.
Well, if you're gonna show up at 8, be there at 10 to 8.
Even
You
better.
know,
Exactly.
and
Exactly. Right.
my
Yeah,
I was raised.
absolutely.
My dad, Tony, when I was a little kid, I remember him saying, "Always leave early enough to be able to change a flat tire in the mud,
Ah,
in the
plan for
rain."
the worst. Yeah.
Prepare for the worst. Be
Yeah.
be there early. And in the military, or the Marine Corps at least, we're always there early. If you're there at 8 o'clock, you're late. If you're there at 10 to 8, you're probably late. You
Yeah.
know, but not only just be there. If it is to be, 10 two-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me.
Mm, love
Okay,
that.
so you don't lay it on somebody else. Don't point the finger at somebody else. Oh, I didn't get the job done. I didn't get this complete. I didn't make the sale because. Nah, bullshit. It's your problem. It's your fault. You weren't thinking right. You weren't looking at it correctly. You should have looked at it from a little different angle. But it
Take
falls
ownership.
back on you. Take
Yeah.
back ownership and take responsibility.
I love that, Jay. So I want to pivot now because I love where you went with the younger generation. So I want you to speak now to the older generation. But I know you're kind of a different perspective because you said you've owned businesses and whatnot. You've got a book and things like that. Speak to the older generation that view working towards retirement. What is sort of, I guess I'm going to bias my view on it. What's the pitfall with that thinking?
No, it's bad. Bad
I
bad
love
decision.
it.
Bad decision. Bad decision. Because I'll tell you what, you're old enough that you remember some teachers, I'm sure, that retired, that
Yeah.
they quit working. And how long did they live?
Not long.
They didn't live long.
Yeah.
And you said it yourself. I didn't say it. I didn't
Yeah.
put the words in your mouth. When people work till they're 65, by the time they're 75, 90% of them are dead,
Yeah.
or before, because, oh, I'll sit back, I'll do things at my leisure, when I want, how I want, and all this. And let me share this with you. Several years ago, I read a book, and I don't remember the name of the book. It was a true story, and it was a group of people. It was like 25 people, and they had a goal. They wanted to visit, um, I believe it was all the monasteries, or this number of monasteries in Burma. So Burma, if you're familiar, Burma, the Burma hump, they flew over in World War II,
Mm.
the flying tigers and all that stuff. And it's up in the mountains. It's up in the fog and the mist and the snow and all that. And they had this goal to go from mission to mission, or monastery to monastery to monastery. And the last one was way, 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 way up. And And that was their goal, and they've been on this trek for, like, 2 years. And when they finally got to their goal and they saw the monks and they spoke to those people, okay, and then they're well, of course, they had to go down the mountain, right? Or down the mountains, plural. And when they got to the bottom of the mountains, they had no more goals.
Yeah.
They had nothing left in their life. They didn't know what they were gonna do. And out of the I think there were 26 people out of that group, and over 20, I think it was 21 or 22 of them faded into memory. They faded away to nothing. They became nothing
Wow.
because they didn't have any further goals in their life. That was a lifetime goal. So if your lifetime goal is to work till you're 65 or 67 or 72 or 62 or whatever, that's fine. Quit, stop, retire, but go do something else. Reach out. If you're alive, help somebody.
Yeah.
Reach out, mentor somebody. And you know what? Even if you don't think you can speak well or you can talk to somebody well or something, you more than likely can. It's just something within you that's kind of, you don't feel comfortable with it. But get over that uncomfortableness and you will become more resilient. You will move ahead and you will help other people. But whether it's helping at the food bank, whether it's caddying at a golf course when you're 65 years old, who cares? Maybe you're a pretty good golfer, but you'd like to you have fun and you
Mm.
get paid to do it. I mean, there's a million things to do. Um, so, but don't quit. I'm 76. I've already got my next 9 years planned out to 85, and I'm working on my next 10 years
I love it.
because, well, but it keeps me young. And I mean, I don't sound, at least I get told that I'm 76. Maybe they're lying to me because I no, but you know what I'm saying? It's
Yep.
just like, if you stay active, you're doing good. It's kinda like that old saying back when you're younger, "Use it or lose it."
Yes.
And that's really what it is don't people have too much to offer, and you're gonna be dead before you know it anyhow. Why make it sooner? And I don't mean to say that roughly or be nasty about it, but it is. I mean, our life is only the average man age is 76 years old. I'm there now, you know, and I could die tonight in my sleep. I could die right now for that matter. But hopefully I won't
Please
because
not.
then
Please not. You've been a great guest. Please don't die yet.
yeah, we got to get through the podcast.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Right. For
but I.
selfish. Yeah.
I just think that people have more to offer, and whatever they've done, whatever they've
Yeah.
been doing, if they've been an auto mechanic or they've been working in the petrochemical field. Share that knowledge with another group. Maybe there's a club at the high school that they could help with the auto club or the chemical department. Maybe in the chemistry department they would like to talk to a petrochemical engineer or somebody that's been working in the petrochemical field. And I'm just making something up. I'm pulling it out of the blue.
So, Jay, this is great. So, one of the things we like to say on the show that success is not a matter of good luck, it's good skills. What would you say is the skill towards, you're kind of sort of talking about it, this purpose? What is a skill for the audience to think about in terms of working towards this purpose in their life?
I'm going to use. I'm gonna give a few words, and then I'm gonna give another word separately, okay? And the words I would say together are pretty much they call it mindset. Back in my
Mm.
day, it was called attitude because,
Ah,
back in my day, attitude, because it's like you could hear somebody that was grumpy. You'd say, man, they need an attitude adjustment, or they need to go out and get loaded or something, get drunk. I mean, they need to get a hangover and get an attitude adjustment. Um, but attitude, perseverance, resilience, grit, determination, stick-to-itiveness was the old word we had back in my day. But the one word, the one particular word I like the most out of I think everything is just plain stubbornness.
ah,
I am not gonna stop. Stubborn. Be stubborn about it. It can have good connotations or bad connotations, but if you do it in a positive way, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to stop. When they told me I would never walk, I after my neck was broken, I was never supposed to move anything from my shoulders down. Now, my left arm worked pretty good. My wrist has been fused with bone from my right pelvis and a few other things like that. And my shoulder's been rebuilt, and my deltoid muscle severed, and a bone out the back of my arm, and my fingers have been broken and knuckles. But my hand, but I work something. My right one, I can flip my arm, but my hand's dead. But I don't quit. So you're stubborn about it. You know, I just think that's and if you maintain that, no, I'm not gonna do it. That's not what I can get through this.
What a
You know,
skill though, Jay, of learning to say no, right? What other people tell you. Like, walk us through how you built sort of this confidence to be like, no, I'm not going to take that as an answer. I'm going to keep doing this.
well, that's a good question. Um, it just came naturally to me, so it's hard to I gotta think about that one. How did I get a
Yeah.
no? Um, I believe it's from your judgment.
Mm.
Really, ultimately, I mean, in other words, I just use it automatically. It's very quick because like I said before, with the companies. I mean, I've started like 11, 10 or 11, 12 companies, and you know, I think it's a learned habit. It's a learned skill. It's something you learn. It's a judgment call. It's kind of like, should I pull out? I see a Volkswagen coming, and I'm driving a Peterbilt, and I feel like pulling out. I could do that. But if I see a Peterbilt coming and I'm in a Volkswagen, I'm not going to pull out in front. That's a bad judgment call. I'm going to say, no, don't do that. So I think it's something that you inherently pick up through life, through
Mm.
time. What is it that Tony would say no to because he's experienced in that area, or just say, I don't think so. I'll set this one out. But if you also take small steps,
Mm.
you learn when to say no quicker because now you see it. You didn't step into it with one big leap. Just that little step. And you can retract that little step pretty quick. But you can't, it's like the difference between a 22 short and a 12 gauge slug is two different rounds. It's like yeah, well, anyhow, that's
I
another
love that. I
story.
love the Peter, the truck, and then the Volkswagen. What a great way to think about that in terms of boundaries and
But
saying no. That's
I
what
mean,
it's like, oh man, I gotta implement that in my thinking. Because one of the things I struggle with, Jay, is like I have a hard time saying no to guests on the show. I want to please people, but you're saying it's like I love this idea of stubbornness, like sticking to the principles of what should be on the show, who should be on here as a guest. So thank you. That's a little coaching moment there. I appreciate that.
oh, you're welcome.
Awesome. So, Jay, this is the Work Sucks, but I Like It podcast. What is one thing that sucks about your work today? And what are you doing to make it not suck?
I there again, I don't the only thing that I can think that kinda I don't know I don't you want use the word suck, but I guess it and I talked to a certain person today about something where I've got, uh, way into the 6 figures invested in it, and I'm not getting the communication that I feel I deserve. And I've
Mm,
said, "Hey, I've got too much invested in this, and we could get into numbers if you want because I'm 2/3 of the company, and you can either communicate better or I'll withdraw funds."
mm,
I mean, that's kind of a I don't I the reason I don't think of it like that, and I know that's the name of your show, Tony, I understand it, but I don't, and I was thinking about it before was even on here. Wow, you know what? I think that I have moments or minutes or maybe an hour of something I'm not appreciative of or I don't like, or the things I'm going through with technology in the bank, or if you got an account that got compromised, or a credit card that got used by somebody else, compromised, not used by because you got it in your pocket. Going through that hassle of dealing with the Social Security Department or the Veterans Administration for me, or things like that, that's a pain in the ass. I hate it. That I hate because you don't get anywhere. You're dealing with a nobody that just looks at you as a number. And but as far as work, I just I think that if you try to always help other people, well, something I'll just say it this way: the more people you help, the better person you become, and that's a fact. That's a fact. It's going to help you, and if you do it correctly and help people the right way or for the right reason, they're gonna help somebody else. They're gonna let it rub off. They can say, "Hey, you know what? I maybe not everybody, and maybe not to all people, but if it's to some, that's a heck of a lot further down the road than where it was before." You know? But I don't I just think I have a different perspective on it, Tony, because of what I've been through physically. I mean, I've spent almost 4 years of my life in hospitals. Okay, 4 years of my life, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 30 days a month, 31 days a month. I mean, it gets old, trust me. And so how can I compare some rather insignificant,
Right.
uh, uh, um, I remember, I'm gonna interrupt something here, or
No, no,
my
no. Love
thought
it.
train my thought train. But many years ago, I had about 6 weeks, I had nothing to do, and I had a buddy of mine that was my brother was best man for him and his wedding, and he was like 6, 7 years older than I was, and, he was putting up well, they call them pole barns, metal buildings, with the posts that go in the ground and purlins and such. Well, we were nailing on I was on the west side of a building and the wind was coming out of the east, and it was blowing hard enough where you're sitting there holding 2 sheets of metal in, and you're holding this big screw. You got a 20-ounce hammer, and you're whacking that sucker, and I'd hit my thumb, and I'd hit my thumb, and my thumbnail was off, my finger had been squirting blood. The pain was terrible, and I'm going like, "God, yeah," but you gotta get the metal on, right? You know? And so where was I going with the story? It was a good example.
Work
Uh,
sucks, but you're liking it
oh, yeah,
somehow.
work sucks, but you know what? It's very seldom can somebody pull up and put up a 60 by 90-foot metal building with a four-man crew, get there on Monday morning, leave on Friday afternoon, and it's done. It's done. The doors are on, the 2 windows are in, the walk-in door is on, it's completed, the roof is screwed on, and I gotta tell you, just for the audience, it's kind of funny because 'cause I'm sure somebody out there is a roofer, or they've been on a roof, and they've hammered shingles on, they put metal roofs on, but we used to screw the roofs on, and, so I got T-shirts for everybody and on the back of it said, "We screw on roofs."
Ah,
Think about it. It was
it's
it
I
was it
love
was a joke. It was like
that is funny.
and
I love
and a
that,
buddy
Jay.
of mine, a real good buddy of mine, poured a lot of concrete, and he had a pretty good sized crew. And for his birthday, when he turned 25, he had took it over from his dad. His dad had passed away from a heart attack. He took it over, and I got him T-shirts that said "Loppin's Concrete" on the front, and on the back it said "Get stoned, drink
Love
wet
it.
cement."
I
Wet
love it.
cement. It's got
I love
rocks
all
in
the
it.
puns.
Yeah, that's
No.
what it was just but it's fun, have a little fun with life, and it eases the pain. But that thing with that I'll never forget, I'd forgot about till I just telling you, but man, that thumb hurt. You look at it, it was like the size of my foot,
Was
but
that
when
another
you hit it
surgery of yours or no? Did that add the
pardon?
tally mark with the thumb?
No, that was just
No.
another
That was just a flesh wound, yeah.
that was just a flesh wound.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well,
Yeah.
Jay, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. If you mentioned your book quite a bit, if listeners want to find your book, Strength Within You, It's Always Too Soon to Quit, where's a good place for them to land?
Uh,
Learn more about your work?
Amazon's got it, Barnes& and Noble's got it, but It's a and what it does, it talks about some of my deaths, it talks about some of my physical issues. It's not very big, it's like a 4-hour read, it's a quick read, and I use small words because and I got some pictures in there too for those that like pictures, and but but what and it's just because I wrote it, and that's why it's small words. I'm not into big words. Let's call it what it is. Let's
Love
talk
it.
normal man talk, and but what it does is the reason I wrote it was it. I want to give people a reason to reach. You have a strength within you, Tony. Not in you have a strength inside of you, but inside of you is more personal. That's
Mm.
where I'm coming from. So the strength within you is where did you get all your strength from? You got it from maybe you got a little bit something from maybe you got something from me. Maybe you got something from the other gentleman that's 82. You pick a little something up from everybody that's energetic, that's positive, that's got a passion to live, to stay going, to keep moving forward. And and out of that though, what that strength that's in you, is it persevere? I mean, is it your attitude, your mindset in
Mhm.
today's terms? Okay. Is it your DNA? Is it your church, where you were raised? Is it your neighbors? Did I raised on a big farm and all of our neighbors were a mile or 2 miles or 5 miles away, and they took care of us too. If I was bad at their house, which I never was, but they'd whoop your butt, and then when you got home, you got your butt whooped again. But the thing is that, you, oh man, I was lost it again. I'm thinking about my neighbors now.
That's all
Um,
right. Just still talking about the
uh
book and what the
but
readers can
the
take
book
away.
but if you dig inside of you, are you aggravated? Are you frustrated? Are you in a lot of pain? When pain pushes me, I push back, and I'm in a
Mm.
lot of pain. The 15 back surgeries, I hurt like hell, and I'm sitting here in a big old power wheelchair, and, um, use those things, or whatever that might be that you have within you, grab a hold of them with your hand and use them to help you give you perseverance to get through the obstacles and the roadblocks down the road and and you'll better yourself, you'll do better. And it's not so much about overcoming an obstacle is what you've learned from what you overcame and what can you use in the future. And when you've overcome at your age 30 obstacles, let's just say, and in 15 years you've overcome 50 obstacles. At my age, I've overcome 100 or whatever. Well, you do. If you get good out and you're active in life, you'll try to. You can't get through life aggressively or with any passion or with any determination or with any success that you're not going to run into roadblocks. And so the book really comes back and says, how can you get through that? How can you get over those? And that's really what it is try to help people move ahead and realize what they can do. That's real, but and then I got a website, and luckily enough, of all the damn names available for a website, now I'm sitting thinking, what would I call it? Because I put, man, it's always too soon to quit. I'm never gonna quit. I'm not so I put in never quit trying. It
Mm.
came up,
Mm.
neverquittrying.com,
I
my
love it.
website.
Well, we'll put that in
So
the description for the listeners. So, Jay,
yeah.
it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so
Tony,
much.
hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I salute you. And
Thank
you had a
you.
good salute. My wrist is with the fusion. It's like, so I got to
Sorry.
work at it like this.
Sorry. Well, your
But
right hand is.
no,
No.
actually, I'm right. Yeah, I know I got to use my left hand. I'm not used to that. But
One thing I really took away from this conversation with Jay is that experience compounds. The more things you try, the more confidence, perspective, and judgment you develop over time. That's why dreaming big matters, but taking small, consistent steps matters even more. I look at my PhD program. I'm now 3 years in to this program, and I have about a year and a half to go. 13 classes out of 15. I just finished statistics and going to be doing my dissertation the end of 2026. We also talked about in this episode the difference between attitude and mindset. Everybody has bad days, everybody gets frustrated. but plain stubbornness can carry you a long way in life. Don't quit on yourself too early. Stay in the fight, as Jay reminds us. Keep learning and keep showing up. And maybe the biggest lesson is this: the more people you help, the better person you become. Helping people sharpens your awareness. It builds patience, humility, leadership, and even connection. It reminds me of that Zig Ziglar saying that you can get anything in life that you want if you help enough people get what they want. So here's the skill for today. If you're listening to this late at night, walk back through your day and think about who you helped. Maybe it was a coworker, a customer, a friend, or someone in your family. Notice those moments. And if you're starting your day with this episode, ask yourself a simple question: how many people can I help today? Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.